The fifth area is the creating awareness on the need for effective compliance in the Nigerian ports by organizing fora like this by the MACN CBI. This is the third roundtable tagged Maritime Sector Reforms, Consolidating the Gains. The second roundtable was held on 15 December 2022, titled Institutionalizing Operational Efficiency within the Maritime Industry through Compliance Function of the Agencies. The first roundtable was held on 31st March 2022, titled A Maritime Sector Fit for a Purpose. Now I want to talk about the role of the Project Steering Committee, but I would like to give a brief background on the Project Steering Committee. The Project Steering Committee of the implementation of the Corruption Risk Assessment Report has been the committee working from the background that has led to the reforms and achievements in the ports. The Project Steering Committee comprised of representatives from all the government agencies operating in the Nigerian ports. That is the Nigerian Port Authority, the Nigerian Shippers Council, the Nigerian Immigration Service, the Nigerian Customs Service, NIMASA, Port Health Services, Council for the Regulation of Freight Forwarders, ICPC, Bureau for Public Procurement, Federal Ministry of Finance, with the Federal Ministry of Transport as the chair of the committee, and the Technical Unit on Governance and Anti-Corruption Reforms, TUGA, as the secretariat. The Project Steering Committee was set up by the Federal Ministry of Transportation in 2014 to implement the recommendations of the report of the Corruption Risk Assessment carried out in the Nigerian ports in 2013. The Project Steering Committee, working with all relevant stakeholders, has over the course of this project recorded notable progress and success, which were brought about by the increased understanding of the need for compliance amongst port officials and the sustainability of the port reform agenda, and also why compliance is the key catalyst for the ease of doing business in the maritime sector and creating a healthy and thriving business climate for all parties involved. Now, the roles of the Project Steering Committee. The Project Steering Committee has been and will continuously act as the fulcrum in reviewing itself, that is member agencies, and act as a peer pressure in response to issues and challenges. The representatives of the agencies in Project Steering Committee will continue to interface with the compliance desk officers where necessary in case management and response. The Project Steering Committee will seek to update and improve the harmonized standard operating procedure developed in 2016 to include recent reforms by agencies and stakeholders. The Project Steering Committee will extend its work in the implementation of new areas in the recommended integrity plan. And finally, the Project Steering Committee will contribute immensely to enhance efficient and service delivery of the port markets, such that significant progress will be measurable in our ports to instill compliance and build leadership foundation to ensure continuity. At this juncture, let me commend the effort of the Center for Business Integrity and Maritime Anti-Corruption Network, MACN, for the collaborative efforts with the government agencies and other stakeholders towards ensuring operational efficiency in the Nigerian ports. Also, we thank all stakeholders for honoring our invitations despite our busy schedule. At this point, I wish you all a happy deliberation and thank you all for your kind attention.
Thank you very much for that introduction by Tuga. We'll now move on to the Port Standing Task Team and have the National Coordinator give us a progress report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Pampa. The Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Transportation, please permit me once again to stand on existing protocol. My task this afternoon is just to give a synopsis of the compliance journey so far. Please, the man in black over there, can we have that projected, please? The man in black. Okay. So that people can go along with me. The compliance journey so far, gaps and opportunities in the compliance, in the current compliance response in the maritime sector, by Moses Fadipe, the National Coordinator of the PSTT. Introduction. This paper presentation will focus on analyzing the current state of compliance in the Nigerian maritime sector by identifying gaps and opportunities in the current compliance response in the sector with an emphasis on the operational efficiency and transparency. The presentation will explore the challenges faced by regulators in meeting compliance requirements, the impact of non-compliance in the sector's performance, and the strategies that can be adopted to improve compliance level. Overall, the paper seeks to provide valuable insights into the compliance journey so far in the Nigerian maritime sector and offers recommendations for improving compliance level to achieve operational efficiency. Recall that the CBI CEO indeed mentioned to us in this hall this morning there is a 10-year journey to be where we are. And again, the SOPs we are running with today in Nigerian port sector, it started in 2013, that journey of the SOPs. And this came about as a result of a petition to the federal government by the MACN and some institutional bodies around the world on the corrupt nature of Nigerian ports that pushed them to a point that they might stop calling Nigerian waters. And this gave the government a source of worry. And this petition was forwarded to the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences in 2012. And that was when a risk assessment was carried out in 2013. And indeed, the risk assessment confirmed all the issues mentioned in that petition. And that was how the maritime agencies were brought together with the PPP, Ministry of Finance, and other agencies to look at the way forward to position Nigeria well in the Committee of Nations maritime industry. Remember, we have a vast coast. 53 kilometers is not a joke. And we must have the gains. And that was the beginning of the standard operating procedures, which was followed by admonized one, and the launch in 2016, going along with the port service support portal that was mentioned in this hall, which equally tried to network or combine with the help desk we use today. And the help desk, if I may quickly digress, and the PSSP, it is just a platform that has been put in place now for all vessels calling Nigerian ports to first register their appearance in our waterways. So as you are coming, we are already seeing you live on that platform, and we will know your location. And as events are happening in that location real time, we are seeing on our dashboard too. So anything going on there is very clear, and that's one of the areas that transparency comes in. Next slide, please. So the Nigerian maritime sector was plagued by inefficiencies and corruption that we know in the past. There was lack of adherence to standard operating procedures and other relevant regulations, resulting in delays, increased costs, and reduced competitiveness for the ports. This situation was further aggravated by corrupt practices that allow some individuals and groups to manipulate the system for their own benefit. And this situation prompted the government to implement various measures that vessels entering Nigerian waters comply with all relevant regulations, and the cargo is properly examined and cleared before released into countries with a greater obligation on the government authority to carry out regulatory duties more diligently and on board. What we are saying is that every agencies are statutorily duty bound to carry out their operations as provided for in their policy mission. Nobody will be denied that right to carry out obligations. But what we are saying is that these obligations must be carried out, to best international practice. So one of the measures taken by government, please next slide. One of the measures taken by government was the launch of the Nigerian Port Process Manual, which outlined the key procedures for the clearance of vessels and cargoes. If I may quickly bring you to speed to that MPPM, I indeed mentioned about the petition, about the SOP in 2016, which was being run, and these are one of the indices they use to measure the corruption perception index of every nation by Transparency International. And in 2016, when it was launched, the expectation of government was that there will be improvement on our CPI, which was 26% at that time. So with the launch of the SOP 2017, instead of the figure improving, it's declining. And that makes the government to come up with the ease of doing business policy, or that 01-2017, which highlight is some procedures very key to the maritime sector. And these are like the 24 hours port operation and the 48 hours cargo clearance and some other measures. And with this EOB 2017, instead of an improvement, it's still declining to 25%. The government is worried that all these indicators have worked elsewhere, why not in Nigeria? And they have to revisit the SOP. That is it that it is 40, because at that time, SOP focuses on 3 key areas. We call it the cardinal stand, which we call the who, what, and when, and where. The SOP tells us who I am. I'm Nigerian Customs. What do I do? This is my responsibility in the port. And how do I carry out that duties? But it failed to recognize. Okay, sir. But it failed to recognize the timelines. Even if I have to carry out this particular duty, what timeline should I carry it out? It is a very big gap, and that is what the Nigerian Port Process Manual has come to fill today. So when you look at that manual, it's a trajectory of activities in the ports. Even if I have to apply for my PAR, it tells me as soon as I key in my bank, it tells the bank what timeline it should spend. It tells the customs how long it should take to release those things. It tells the other port users, a vessel bat at the port, it tells the port head that as it anchor, as it's betted and it's moored, there's a timeline which you must quickly go to that vessel and attend to it. Not that you just wait endlessly, not to attend to the vessel. So that's what the MPPM is trying to address. So the key achievement in this regard has been in the area of joint boarding of vessels by officials from different government agencies. Right now, government officials from different agencies are keeping to the timelines of their boarding responsibilities. And equally, it is we have a number of officials, unlike when we just have anybody can just go on board. Now immigration has the number, customs has the number, port has, everybody has the number that can go on board. And when they go on board, they have a lot of responsibility right from the gangway to carry out. And when there are infractions found, there are processes and procedures to follow to tackle those infractions. And that's what the MPPM is trying to address. So the work of the team has been praised for its transparency and effectiveness, and this has helped to build confidence in the country's maritime sector. And that's why other countries are now thinking of learning from what they call the Nigerian miracle, because the captains usually give feedback to their member nations of what they encounter in Nigeria, and now it has improved tremendously. Just yesterday night, I was telling Vivek this morning, around 12:53 p.m., there was a distress call by a captain in a faraway Calabar on the IC, a vessel lifting crude oil, that the Navy has arrested the captain. And you can see a captain frame of mind as at that time, when you see armed personnel that you're under arrest and they're about to detain you, and your vessel again is nowhere to be found. So on the platform, we saw him on the platform. He said, distress call on the platform, and quickly respond back to him. And what we did was, because there's no network in that area, we asked the captain, call with a satellite phone, which he did. I passed it to the Navy. I spoke to the Navy. This is who we are, and this is what we stand, we stand to do. And where is your command? We quickly mentioned the name of their command in Calabar, and we could get across to the command. If there are some issues with stolen crude, the vessel cannot fly. It has to be there. So what we are just trying to say is that let us maintain a fair treatment to such people until they are confirmed guilty. And the captain was very happy. This morning, we have to get across to Shell, get across to the parties concerned, where are the papers, get it done. If you have infracted, you will be dealt with severely. So that's one of the essence of this ease of doing business we're talking about. The platform we have maintained, and it's working for us. So the strict monitoring of joint cargo examination by the team has also yielded significant benefits. This has helped to ensure that all cargoes are properly examined and cleared before being released, promoting efficiency and clearance, and transparency in the clearance process. And this has helped to improve the overall efficiency of cargo clearance and turnaround time. Yes, the examination of cargoes is to be coordinated by Nigerian Customs. Now, it is being done at its provided for in that manual, which says all agencies required for that particular cargo must carry out that examination at the same time. And this is what is going on in Lagos now. Then, another significant improvement is the success of the Operation Free the Port Corridor, which was mentioned by the CBI CEO, who said as we got gains on the vessel, the gains on the vessel transcend to the terminal because there are more cargoes being dropped because turnaround vessel has increased. They drop more cargoes quickly. The terminal yard started becoming congested, but because of the coordinated effort of the joint examination of cargoes, more cargoes are being examined and they are leaving the port quickly, hitting the road. Then the road becomes a problem. And that was what led to the Operation Free the Port Corridor, which equally has recorded tremendous success. What we are saying is that within the port logistics ring, no agency of government must do a pin down, must do a checkpoint, whether state actor or non-state actor. You just keep moving. And if there is any intelligence or whatever to suspect is this, just accost it outside the port logistics ring and take necessary measures. I won't bother you with. Can you go to page 6, please? Page 6. Yeah, gaps in the current state. I won't bother you much with this because these are the gaps in our current compliance response. We know that we don't have the inadequate regulatory framework. Some of these regulatory current frameworks in the sector are weak, outdated, and lack necessary teeth. It lacks necessary teeth to enforce compliance. So this has created a situation where many operators can ignore regulation without fear of penalty or sanctions. 2, lack of robust enforcement. Even when regulations are in place, enforcement is often weak in the sector. This is due to inadequate human and logistic resources at times, but more often than not, the problem stems from corruption, lack of strong partnership among agencies, and as a result, operators can flout regulation without a consequence. Inadequate training is the next one on the slide. Compliance requires some significant level of knowledge and understanding of regulations, which is often lacking in the sector. Operators and regulators require adequate training to ensure that they have the necessary skill to adhere to and enforce regulation. Lack of transparency is essential for effective compliance, but is often lacking in the sector. Limited technology, which plays a very critical role in enhancing compliance, but the Nigerian port sector is here to fully embrace the use of technology. There is need to invest in such as scanners, which we now have, and essential technologies. All these I've mentioned are the gaps, and you agree with me that there is a significant improvement in this area. The MACN are sponsoring the compliance training as we speak now, all over Nigeria, which is a very good one. And the framework we are talking about are being strengthened every day. And that is one of the attestation we have in the Business Facilitation Act, which can now make it punishable under the law. Some of these infractions on the ease of doing business. And equally the issue of the robust enforcement we are talking about. Yes, we are trying to move gradually from that enforcement to compliance. Yes, let's get people educated. Let them know that, yes, there are more gains in doing the right thing than doing the wrong thing, that most times it is not to the advantage of what we are doing. So what are we now doing to address the gaps? That's page 8, addressing the gaps. To address these gaps in compliance response sector, here are further recommendations. We need to strengthen the regulatory framework. We need to update this framework, and this will involve development of new regulations and revisions of existing ones to ensure they align with best practices. could be seen. SEMA Act recently has been, fully worked on, and is going to become operational soon. Then we need to improve enforcement, because the government needs to invest resources to improve enforcement, including deployment of more personnel, logistics, as well as investing in technology to monitor compliance. One of the things the PSCC have been imbibing now is our officers, when going out on special operations or single operations, you see them with body cameras, so that this will ensure that all activities are recorded on the feed, so that nobody will, allege us of maltreatment, unnecessarily bullying, or trying to, descend too heavily on some people as they claim to be. And those are the things that when we come back, we'll look at it, we'll review it, it enables us to check our officers. Outside that too, we have a lot of equipment too we use in the port sector to monitor these infractions, so that nobody goes out of what is expected to do. Then increase transparency. Yes, there's need to increase transparency in the sector. I should be required to provide more operation about the operations, regulations, and make the activities more transparent. I will give an example in this area. That's the area of joint examination. When everybody is there at the same time, everybody knows what is going on. But what we equally detected recently is that in what we call inordinate blockage of cargoes, even after examination, that we are seriously going into it too, to let agencies know that once a cargo is examined, what is justification for you coming back to block it again? What have you not seen? And even if there are further information as to that cargo, go to the customer and let them know, and let them bring that cargo out of that storage area to a special area, so that it doesn't accrue more, cost. Because now it is there, costs are accruing. Overall, the compliance in the Nigerian maritime sector presents several opportunities, including increased efficiency, increased investment, and improved reputation. To take advantage of these opportunities, regulatory bodies should focus on developing strong compliance programs and fully commit to implementing them. Investing in training and education, and the government should seek to domesticate national treaties and practices. What we are trying to say here is, with the compliance training going on, yes, most of the attendees are middle managers. What we expect from them is when they get back with their report, let them get to the top, and let the top know the importance of this, compliance we are talking about, and let the top set the tone. When the top set the tone, it cascades back to that middle manager, who will now be able to disseminate it back to the lower officers, for further implementation. It will really help us. In conclusion, the Nigerian maritime sector has made significant progress towards promoting efficiency and transparency in recent years. For instance, the PSCT has played a significant role in transforming the sector through its commendable monitoring and enforcement adherence to the provision of Nigerian Port Process Manual and in discharge of other ancillary mandates. The tax team intervention have led to reduction in inefficiencies and corruption, and there has been a positive impact on the economy. Strict monitoring and enforcement of joint boarding of vessels, procedures, transparency in monitoring, strict monitoring of joint cargo examination, and dismantling of illegal checkpoints and extortion points have all contributed to the improvement of the sector. And the truckers among us here will agree with me that sometimes past, the cost of carriage from the port to to a place like outside the ports, Apapa, Ikeja, has drastically come down. And again, people coming in and going out of Apapa will know that they have some relief compared with what we used to have in the past, even though there's still an improvement to be done. And in the area of joint boarding of vessels too, it has been a kind of relief for all practitioners in the industry, to the extent that even the issue of souvenirs has come down drastically in our ports. You are only allowed to go on board with your ID card, and you are only allowed to come down with that same ID card. So there is no issue of souvenir on board of vessel anymore, and the issue of samples in the ports have reduced drastically too. Yeah, there are some agencies that are required statutorily to take samples, but what the PSCC is doing is, you must know what quantity of samples are you entitled to at any point in time. So when you take more than that, the PSCC have their own, we have our own rules and processes. We'll give out our own sample form, you fill it. And when you fill it, we'll tell you these are homogeneous cargoes. So if they are homogeneous cargoes, and that person has 100 containers, why should you take 100 items of homogeneous items? So you do a random sampling. So that way too, we have been able to reduce all these samples. And when you reduce the samples, ultimately the cost to that consignee reduced drastically. Because the consignee, instead of saying like 100 has been taken, it's only maybe about 2, so its cost reduces as well. However, there are still some challenges in the industry. There is need for continued effort to address these challenges and further improve the efficiency and transparency of the sector. And let me use this opportunity too to thank the Ministry of Transportation for their efforts. And let me say, sir, that your effort is recognized. And let me quickly remind you that there is support from your desk to other agents like Nigerian Ports and NIMASA, and I'm happy that Tony is here. Maybe this opportunity could be used to get across to them for them to do the needful. All stakeholders will be required to work together to ensure the compliance level is improved, the sector continues to grow, and the PSCT will continue to work tirelessly to ensure that the Nigerian maritime sector is efficient, competitive, and corrupt-free. Thank you all for listening attentively.
Thank you very much. At this point, we would now like to turn the proceedings over to the chair of this roundtable, which will now be Mr. Babatunde Sule, representing Dr. Ajani.
Thank you, distinguished participants. Okay. The next item on this our agenda is a review of the prevention, detection, response, and evaluation of SOP compliance. I have Federal Minister of Transportation here. I don't know why he's here. Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you. I can see men of the custom, they are here, immigration here. Port head services, are they here? Port head services. MPA concessionaires, PTML, not here. The port police, not here. NAFDAC. Okay. So NDLA. Okay. Quarantine service, please. It's not. It will be. We are going to take you. Okay. We'll take you and. So, but let's start from the Nigerian Custom Service. Sir, you are there in Abuja. So, the floor is yours. You have the floor.
Good morning, everybody. I'm here to represent the Nigerian Custom Service, particularly the head of agency. And he brings his warm regards, greetings. And he's however, unavoidably absent. So the significance and timeliness of this roundtable lies in its ability to serve as a platform for assessing the advancements made in the implementation of the standard operating procedure of port agencies as encapsulated in the NPPM document, and to reiterate our collective determination to ensure compliance within the maritime sector. The event provides a crucial opportunity to evaluate the progress made thus far and identify areas that require improvements. By coming together, we can strengthen our commitment and resolve to achieving best practices and standards, which will not only benefit the port agencies, but also promote safe and efficient operations in the maritime industry. Therefore, this roundtable is of utmost significance and importance and demands our full attention and participation. which is what we in the Nigerian Customs Service have keyed into. Evaluating the journey so far, would have to, you permit us to bore you again with our e-customs project, which involves an end-to-end automation of the NCS procedure and business processes. I'm sure we all know that the Federal Executive Council recently approved the e-customs modernization project, which is a $3.1 billion project, which transcribes to 142.24 billion naira late last month, precisely on the 20th of April 2023. The concession agreement is midwifed by the Nigeria Infrastructure Concession Regulatory Commission. The concession agreement is built on a structure as follows. For the import of imported cargo, the accruals is 45% of the value of the FOB of the imported cargo, which usually is tied to the Comprehensive Import Supervision Scheme, which is 1% of the CISS, that's what we call it. Thank you, sir. So that's for the imported cargo. So it is the accruals is 45% of the FOB, which is which is 45. I go again. 45% of the FOB CISS on that is you know, what goes to the concessionaires. Then 55% of the accruals goes to the federal government of Nigeria. For the export trade, we have 25% of the accruals going to the concessionaires, while 75% of those, the same accruals, goes to the federal government of Nigeria. And the source of that fund is the Nigerian Export Supervision Scheme, and it's on 0.5% of the FOB of the cargo. So the project is conceived with the aim of easing the cost of doing business, to boost revenue, enhancing productivity, and curtailing arbitrariness in the service. It is a 20-year concession agreement and has a propensity to quadruple the current approximate monthly revenue of 210 billion naira. Ultimately, the project is geared towards bringing digital smart processes and procedure to custom operations. This is a migration from the analog to digital technology, which ultimately leads to the reduction of human interface and other attendant benefits to the trading public and other relevant stakeholders. Part of the project also has, as one of the components, the NIT, which means the non-intrusive inspection technology. That, as we have right now, there's this partial deployment of the NIT technology. If you remember, the Honorable Minister commissioned 2 scanners, one at the port of Tinkan Island and then the other at APMT. So these scanners are working, and they are like a pilot, and they are being deployed. But with the e-custom modernization project, we're going to see a massive deployment of these scanners, and you know, containers will be scanned at the quayside, and it would afford us to be able to scan approximately 400 containers per day. The perception, I mean the mindset, the project is meant to scan, a 20-footer container is meant to be scanned under 30 seconds, while the 40-footer container will be scanned within 55 seconds. So we are looking forward to the conceptualization of this project, which will lead to the reduction of human interface. And you know that with reduction of human interface, there's no human contact. So that possibility, you know, that gets our ports into, at par with most ports, as a matter of fact, we've understudied other ports in other climes, and we're trying to achieve, just what happens out there. It's like we always said, it's a work in progress, and, it's seriously being worked on by, at the highest level of management. So, talking about compliance at the level of the area commands, we now have dispute resolution committees domiciled at all the command levels. And what does this dispute resolution committee do? When you have issues that are contentious, you bring them to the notice of the dispute resolution committee, and at that level, most of these issues are trashed out. And usually, I'm sure we all know, among the port users, we have these fast track process that is also on. We have for fast tracking cargo. These are means where you get your cargo if you've gotten to that level of compliance. Because you see, we are facilitating trade, but we are not facilitating all trade. We are facilitating trade for compliant traders. You understand? So the compliance is on both sides of the divide. So we shouldn't just look at compliance from the level of the public servant. We should also look at the compliance from the level of the trader, because it's an internal, external stakeholding kind of thing. So we need to, what we are pitching out there to the members of the trading public is that they should try as much as possible to do correct declarations, because we have it entrenched in our system where we are not going to promote untrue declarations. Please, for the avoidance of doubt, we are going to promote and we're going to encourage, we're going to facilitate compliant trade. Please. So let us have that compliance is on two sides of the divide. It is both from the public and the private sector. And I want to please say to my brother from MACN, compliance is also entrenched in public service right now. Because like in our training modules, in some of the courses, the middle to high cadre courses, we have compliance management as a course unit that is being studied, and you need to pass that to be able to. As a matter of fact, sir, I guess it's a matter of the public service, because we're in a forum where there was under the auspices of Public Service Institute of Nigeria, there were topics that made so much difference to what we used to have in the past. We had compliance management, we had stakeholder engagement, we had so many other, these are new, we had this thing about career progression, you understand? Something, in that we had mentor-mentee program and all these type of things. These are all the kind of things that are going to promote compliance, because you see, like I said, compliance usually is not a bolt and nut approach, because you're having to deal with people and processes. So if we want to look at it more like a bolt and nut, it may be a little bit difficult to achieve. But if we look at it more like an evolving thing, we get people to key into certain things, and then, like we rightly said, positive, negative sanctions and co. If there are all those are entrenched, I'm sure we'll be moving forward. So we also have imposition of sanctions to erring officers at the command and headquarters level. These are all things that we have entrenched. And like and we all know, Customs, Nigeria Customs Service is a signatory to multilateral agreements. Like the WCO, which is the World Customs Organization. And the World Customs Organization has identified different drivers of corruption. You understand? Particularly, there are 5 drivers that they have mentioned. And all these drivers are mentioned in the Arusha Declaration. The revised Arusha Declaration. If you all get to know what revised Arusha Declaration is talking about, it hammers strictly on integrity. So for the purposes of this round table, I may not be able to go into the various drivers of corruption, but I'll just mention them schematically. The 5 we have here are the functional drivers, the expected drivers, the opportunistic drivers, the desperate driver, and the coercive drivers. And as much as they've mentioned these drivers of corruption, they also the WCO developed several tools for addressing the drivers of corruption, which are the disposal of all custom administrations for implementation. These are as follows. One, transparency. There has to be a transparent system. And if you understand, we have tried to, in line with the Kyoto Convention, we've tried to harmonize and simplify our procedures. So much so that usually in the confines of your homes, you are able to, do your declarations. Sometimes you can do self-declaration, self-assessment, and some of these kind of things. The second one, they are talking about modernization and reforms. If you all agree with me, like I said earlier, the custom modernization project, that is also in line with modernization and reforms. Then there's the human resource management, there's the staff morale and organizational culture, there's the audit and investigation, which is also, it runs in sync with, what we're talking about to ensure to ensure some form of enforcement. There's the automation, which, transformation from the analog to the digital age. There's also the leadership and commitment, which runs in sync with the tone at the top, because I saw on some of our documents here, we talked about tone at the top. So the leadership and commitment is also aligned with the tone at the top. So concluding this little wrap-up of mine, the parameters presented provide strong evidence that the Nigerian Customs Service is excelling at managing compliance. By prioritizing risk assessment, implementing robust monitoring and reporting systems, investing in technology, employee training, and collaborating with industry partners like we have it here, the NCS is demonstrating a commitment to ethical and responsible operations within the port ecosystem. By ensuring compliance, the NCS is not only avoiding legal and financial implications by way of revenue loss, but also promoting fairness, transparency, accountability in the import and export marketplace, building trust with stakeholders, and improving overall operational efficiency. It is clear that the NCS is setting a high standard and contributing its quota to ensure effective compliance management and efficient processes at our nation's ports. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you for the beautiful presentation. I think I would just advise I would take note of our observations. We have a column for question and answers, so that we make all the presentations before we get to the issue of question and answers. I think that is okay by us, according to the timetables, though. So there's nothing I'm going to do. So, immigration, you are welcome to the high table. Feel at home, wherever you are. It's the same hall. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Odaleje David, Controller of Immigration. I am here representing the Controller General of Immigration, Alhaji Issa Jere, MFR, who is unavoidably absent because of his official engagements in service headquarters. Please allow me to stand on the existing protocol. Prominent on what we've been talking, I have been hearing everybody saying standard operating procedure and the executive order, Federal Executive Order 1 on ease of doing business. Everybody is talking about it. And I think these are very important. I believe strongly that for the Federal Executive Order 001 to be effective, standard operation procedure must be obeyed. If you don't do it, you will not achieve the executive order. That is why the two of them are always going together. Now, I'd like you, all of us, to understand one thing. Each time we have occasions like this, we talk about synergy. As it is today, we have the customs, we have immigration, port health, and others that are government agencies. Until we are ready to work together as one, those two areas we just named, SOP and the Federal Executive Order, will never be effective. A custom officer shouldn't work as a custom officer. An immigration officer should not work at the cost of doing their duty in the port, shouldn't be doing it as an immigration officer necessarily. How will they do it? They will do their job in such a manner that if a custom officer is making a mistake, it should be the mistake of immigration officer. If an immigration officer is making a mistake, it is the mistake of a custom officer or a port health officer, which means that there's a synergy, there's a good relationship, and each of these areas you should be able to caution yourselves. And how is that possible? When a meeting like this is convened and you go back as government agencies, you should be able to sit, talk, discuss on how to move forward. It is only when we do that that we will achieve our aim of coming here. I wouldn't want to talk so much because I have an officer here who is at the theater, who is right at the seaport, and knows exactly what goes on. He knows specific areas of improvement, and he knows specific areas that need to be improved. And I would like to hand over to him, while I thank all of you for being here and thank the organizers for this occasion. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, sirs. Permit me to stand on existing protocol. My name is Mr. Mancha DS, Assistant Controller of Immigration. Sir, we have talking about SOPs. It's a very good policy that we need to comply so that Nigeria can be great and can be reckoned in the signs of time in the world. When this policy came up, there were challenges. But the way forward, we are discussing the way forward that I am in the theater of operation at the Marine. One, we are in the form of retraining our officers in order to comply very well to this particular policy in our issue of clearance. Because we deal with human beings, at the same time, the port is a border. That we have a lot of issues to look at. The SI, that is the suspect index, and the laws that supposed to be obeyed. Most especially, the type of visas, work permits that these people come with. How valid are their documents and proper documentation that with time, because we don't play with the data, it's the same data that will help us to develop further improvement and where to make gains. By this, while we are complying with this particular policy, we have what we call MALDAS, M-I-D-A-S. This has to do with immigration, that is migration information and data analysis. The first point of call that we have this was at the airport. Land borders, now in the sea. Very soon it will be in place because it was launched on the 3rd of May 2022. We have affiliation with International Organization of Migration, which is still going in line with the SOP. The joint burden, yes. We have queued into the joint burden so that we streamline our work. But there are gaps. I need to mention here there are gaps. When a captain of a ship sees an immigration, customs, drug law, he will get confused. Because the time for him to attend to all of us is just one person. That is the captain. That is where we need to look inward. Before we sign at the gates, at the gangway, before going in, and you meet a custom officer doing his duty, you have to allow him finish. But the time is counted. Timeline is counted. But we count from the time that the captain starts attending to us. So this is to bring to say that all of us, just as my boss said, when custom fails, immigration fails. If immigration fails, drug law fails. Because we are all moving towards one direction. Then, to improve this synergy, there are those officers who are not on 24-hour duty. How can we make a timeline that the vessel who come into the country should be cleared immediately so that he will not incur a lot of demurrage? That is what the SOP is talking about. And so, we will say that we still have to fine-tune the SOP so that we have more effective gains in the future, just like you have said. On the issue of this particular clearance that we are talking about, yes, we now have a data bank. When a vessel comes into Nigeria, in the next 20 years you ask, we're able to give you the timeline and when he was cleared and everything. That is the standard. So I will not bore a lot of talks on it, on this issue of SOP, because it is the way forward. The interrelationship between other agencies with immigration is very, very great. I would do respect that. Yes, just as my boss have said, this meeting is of almost a higher level, but we will go back and reorientate our junior officers, the field officers, the operation officers, who are there so that we should maintain this particular SOP so that we can go more forward. Fadipe is a very nice man that we have met. He didn't even know me. I was at the background. He's always up and doing to make sure this particular policy goes forward. All in the name of what? Anti-corruption. In our seaport, we have a very strong Savicom unit who are engaged to make sure that our motto is service delivery, good service delivery, and speedy. So when a vessel comes in, thank God, the way forward again, the Ports Authority have done well by reducing the traffic jam, that some of our officers can stay on the route. Just between 1 kilometer or 100 meters, it takes him almost 2-3 hours before he can pass through. Today,